time. It's still August, so welcome to my crafty time. I'm Alex, and you can find me on the internet as Alexi Star on Ravelry and Alexic112 on Instagram. And today this hopefully should be a bit of a quick one. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of my knitting and spinning, and have like a very brief interlude about weaving and some sewing and some kitchen. So let's get to it. I only have one in progress knitting project to share with you this episode. I've been working on it quite monogamously. If you watched the last episode, you would have seen that I had only gotten the neckband done. But this is my shifty sweater. Ta-da! It's rolling up a bit. I've got it on 2 circular needles because they're the Chiagu red lace needles, and I thought, seeing as I only had like the 32-inch originally, but I bought the 40-inch thinking it would be long enough, and then of course it's not long enough because my bust measurement is more than 44 inches, so it makes more than 40 inches, so it makes certain that once you include my arms in that, like this whole circumference, it's going to be longer. So, but either way, pretty sure it's going to fit this time. Like I said to some of my knitting friends, is if it doesn't fit this time, this pattern is dead to me. It's dead to me, as beautiful as it is. So I'm very happy with the way the colours are playing on it. This is Cloudborn Highland Sport, and I really like, so this is the grey heather charcoal, and then I've just put the slate in here, and I like the very subtle colour gradient that I'm getting. And I really like this yarn for the way it's kind of painterly and blends together in terms of the colours. Like, so these, my ugly misshapen balls, but some spare spinning fluff. But it's like a very softly plied yarn, and it's kind of fuzzy. And so I think because it's very soft and kind of fuzzy like that, it really blends together nicely, and it would have a very, like, if I eventually did a colourwork sweater out of it, because I do have a fair bit in my stash, then it would be a very sort of muted, blendy kind of colourwork rather than like harsh lines and contrast. So I've got like half a dozen rows before I split for the sleeves, and each round is like over 450 stitches, so I mean, it's not a difficult pattern. I'll just tuck that away. And I think it's very effective looking, but at the same time, I can't wait to have it separate because those are some long rows. The other knitting I've got at the moment is not so much knitting exactly yet, it's more like dream knitting. So Hohi Locatelli has her fall knit along that starts on September 1st, so in a few days, which I'm very excited for. And I said I would, like, I signed up to do her dragonflies hat because it's been in my library and I've been wanting to make it for ages. Plus I've got some DK yarn I can use, so I'm very happy about that. And then I have also got a few of her sweater patterns that I haven't made yet. So one of which was Like a Cloud, which I saw a lovely lady I met at SSK wearing one made out of shibui, and it was just like the most divine cardigan. So I'll see if I can put a picture of like the pattern page in here. But what I have done is, to see if it was even possible, I made a little swatchy poo. And this is not quite gauge, but I'm pretty happy with the fabric I got. And it's pretty close, so I think I can make it work. It's really soft and light, and stretchy, which is, I guess that's all those pearl stitches making it stretchy. But I'm pretty happy with like the subtle texture you can see in it too. So to get that, I'm using some deep stash yarn. So this is some ice yarn that I bought ages ago, which to me, I feel like it's blowing out a bit, but it's like quite much a tan color. And this is 50% baby camel and 50% extra fine merino, so it's very soft. And I think that, like, you can see it's got like a very slight halo on it. And I've got heaps of this. I don't know what I was thinking. Probably I was like, pretty nice fiber. So to get gauge, I bought this cone of lace weight extra fine merino. It's a color mart yarn, and I bought it off at someone's D-stash. And originally I was thinking it would be much pinker, like the picture that I got was much pinker, whereas this seems to me like more of a stone kind of color. And it has a very slight halo to it too, and it's very pretty. And there's like a lot here. There's over 2,000 yards in this cone, because it, like you can see, it is probably even more cobweb weight than lace weight. It's so fine. But together they've produced this, and I think it's interesting because the color of that stone, I think, has just muted that taupe tan color enough that it's not so tan. I don't know. I'm still not sure about this. Like, after my rant last week about how people shouldn't wear clothes the same color as their skin, I feel like this is pretty close. But it is very, like, I think it's beautiful. And I probably could over dye it if I decide the final. What do you think? At least it's not the same color as my hair currently. So that's something. But I don't know. I can always over dye it. I like the fabric and I like the way it feels. So if I feel like experimenting that way, at least I've got the swatch that I can experiment with first before I put the whole cardigan in a pot of dye, which I may or may not completely stuff up. So that's about it for knitting at the moment. So spinning, I have been spinning and it is very satisfying. I don't know why, it's just very meditative, and if I'm feeling like a bit aggro or anxious or whatever, it is very calming for me, so I quite like it. So I finished most of the things that I showed you last time. So here's my Navajo Churro that I did on the wheel, and that's just like a tag so I don't forget what it is. And then this is like my little spindle skein, and I'm very pleased with how this turned out. It is like, it's not next to skin soft. I love the color though, it's beautiful. And so this is a 2-ply that I spun in some way, because I can't remember. I don't think I took good notes. Whoops. But I'm intending on this to be woven probably more than knitted, because it is a little bit, it's a bit too coarse for anything that touches bare skin, for me anyway. And I'm not like overly sensitive, but yeah. So that's the Navajo Churro. And then I finished my little spin of the Manx loughtan, which fluffed up so much. I had a little, there's a knot in here, which is like, I'm not very impressed with. But like, the thing that I found interesting was with both of the samples of the Navajo Churro that I did, so the wheel spun and the spindle spun, it didn't shrink. And I guess I've been so used to working with down like breeds lately that I expect everything to shrink and be bouncy. But the Navajo Churro, definitely it's not. So this is the Manx loughtan. Loughtan. I quite like this brown. It ended up fatter or a thicker weight than I thought it would be, just because it did really poof up once it had been washed. So that's going in the Vivid blanket. And you can see like this is the same weight of fiber, about, well, approximately the same amount. So they're like maybe 1 gram different per skein, but you can see how much fatter this one is compared to this one, which kind of gives you an indication that like, I guess this is a much fatter spun yarn, but it's also like much harder to twist because it's shrunk. Yeah, so that's the Manx loughtan. Then I finished the cream coloured ponies, which is, it's quite pretty. Whee! Excuse my ugly ties. So yeah, and like, I guess it's not too bad. So if I compare my swatch to this, there is definitely a colour difference. This is kind of like a more pinkier, browner colour, whereas this is like much more goldier, like a white gold. So maybe it'll be okay. Who knows? I'm sure I will report back on what I think of the colour eventually. So yeah, that's the cream coloured ponies finished. These ones have all been washed too, so that makes me quite pleased. Then I got through Maryland Sheep and Wool, I bought like this massive bag of, well, it said it was only 8 ounces and it was like $10, so that's pretty good. Bag of BFL mill ends, and they're all in like, mostly in like little pieces like that big. Some of them are like full ropes or whatever. And so what I did was I sat down and organized them into groups of colors that like appealed to me, that I felt went with each other. And I've got like one more pile that I need to go through again, because I feel like there's probably like 3 or so different colors in there that I want. So there's like a red, purple, red, pink, beige pile, and then there's like a seashell-y kind of pile that has like light rust blues, yellows, and then there's, and like some kind of neutrally colors, and then there's a third pile that is like bam, bright orange and yellow. And I can't make that one, I can't really make them reconcile with each other, so I think I have to separate them. However, I'll show you that when I eventually get to it. So this is one of the colors that I ended up picking out and spinning. And so this was, as you can tell, a lot of really bright yellows, like some tealy blues, some greens, and some paler blues, and some like really beautifully like appley greens like in there. It's so pretty. And I was not sure how it would spin up, because I'm not like the biggest fan of yellow. In fact, I probably don't like it, which is why I was using this as a test, because I didn't feel invested if it didn't work. But it did work. So this is just a 2-ply, and I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the spin cycle yarns in the way it is spun. So it might work out as a nice substitute for that. And it's probably about the weight too that it would work to substitute in those patterns. Seeing as I think it's like, it's a bit inconsistent because all my yarns are a little bit inconsistent. I just end up spinning away and not really paying attention to how thick things are. Look at me, such a technical spinner. But I think it's probably fingering. Some bits are maybe as thick as the DK, but on average, no. And so what I did to spin this was I had my bag of mill ends that I had separated into this particular color palette, and I just kind of eyeballed it and picked one color and then found another color that I thought would like transition nicely from it. So like it might have been a patch of like the bright yellow, and then with like a little bit of blue on the end, so I've moved into some blues, and then I just did it pretty much randomly from that. And then I eyeballed it and split it in half, which I never get this good a split when I just like measure it or weigh it or anything like that. I just eyeballed it, and then there was only like 3 yards left on each one bobbin when the other one was empty. So I was very happy about that. but then did the same thing and tried to split out the really bright yellow so there would be an even amount in each ply. And I made this decision halfway through spinning because I kind of ended up thinking that I don't really like yellow much. So if I chain plied this, which was my original plan, then it would be stripy in the sense that it would have big chunks of colour, because that would be a way of keeping the colours as they were, rather than this, which I thought the other colours might come through, because there's like some white and some pale blue, and then there's a few bits that I want to pull out, probably like this bit, if you can see it, because to me it doesn't really go with the rest of it. And then there's one that has a bit more red in it too, where I clearly didn't separate it enough. But I think that helps tone down the yellow and it makes it a bit more like greeny. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. This has been washed too, and I feel like the darker blue colours just like bled so much because the wash water was teal like instantly. So I've got to be careful of that when I finally use it, and to remind myself, look, I put a note on it. I'm so clever. Thank you. My future Alex will thank me. So there's that. And then my final spinning FO is, ta-da! This is a big old skein of black Welsh mountain that I got the fibre in July of last year and washed it, and basically it's taken me this long to finish spinning it because it was a slog. I didn't like it, and I'm not going to unravel it. It's a 2-ply, it's very inconsistent, it's very scratchy, and I don't like saying that about wool, but I think that's a result of all those little prickly coarse hairs that fell out while I was carding it, fell out while I was washing it, fell out while I was spinning it. Obviously they didn't all fall out because I think there's still some in here, and that's giving it like this extreme prickle factor. And there's a lot of this, I think. I haven't measured it yet. I don't really want to do anything about it besides throw it in the corner. It turned out better than I thought it would, given how much anger I felt while spinning it. And like I said, I would be willing to maybe give this a go if someone else prepped the fibre. That wasn't me, and like removed all the anyway, I can do that just so easily and little bits come out. I don't know. You win some, you lose some, I guess. And this one, I think it might be okay in a rug. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. But at least it's finished. So that's something I can say about it. It's done. And that's the Shave 'em to Save 'em breed. And so is the Navajo Churro, and so is this project that I had down as whip. Now I've got pubes everywhere from that stupid puby yarn. Anyway, this next one, I ended up plying it this morning. So this is also a Shave 'em to Save 'em breed. This is Lincoln Longwool, and it's a bit inconsistent, but this was such a joy to spin, hence why I started spinning it 2 days ago, and then I plied it this morning, and it's just a pleasure. So I got this as half a pound of raw locks, which I got for finishing 5 of the Shave 'em to Save 'em breeds through the Livestock Conservancy. This happens to be my 10th one, so I can submit this once I've wound this off the bobbin and then given it a good wash. But so I got this as raw locks, and I think the sheet must have been like raised on clay or something, because holy moly, it was so hard to get out. Like, I soaked it and I washed it and then I soaked it, and I kind of tried to like loosen the tips up by like to get some of the clay out. Anyway, I was mostly successful. Give me 1 second and I can show you. So I was mostly successful at getting the clay out. So this was a bunch that I ended up re-washing again yesterday, because you can see in here, like, that's what I'm talking about. It's these bits that are really, really matted, and it's kind of like sticky. It reminds me of like clay, basically. This was much worse. Much worse. Like, for the most part, I got it out, and I'm hoping I can comb this out. But you can see, like, I did leave some of the other bits that I've set aside to process for my vivid blanket, rather than wheel spinning it. So here's a lock. It's got a little bit of clay in it, but it's like definitely not too bad. But you can see how like shiny it is, and then it's got like a nice sort of wavy crimp to it, and it just, I proved to myself I can use my mini hackle. So like, here's another more crimpier bit. I tried to be gentle with it while I was washing it, but because it had so much clay in it, I don't know how successful I was, but I still managed to like get most of it out while I used a beekeeper's uncapping fork to like to kind of flick it out a bit at each end, and then I put it on my mini hackle and then jizzed it off that, which is like essentially making your own combed top. Mine was much looser than that, but I can put a picture in. But yeah, I proved to myself that I can do it with my materials that I've got at the moment. I don't know if I'd want to do much more than half a pound. I mean, it was quicker than the carding of fiber that I've done so far, so I guess that's something. But yeah, so I spun this short forward. Even you can see like the staple length is reasonably long even on the short one, so short forward draft is still having your hands like wider apart. I'm interested to see what it does once it's washed. Like, I have a working theory that it's not going to really shrink because it's a Longwool, and then you can kind of see now like it's already beautifully shiny. The interesting thing that I found as well when I was spinning this, which I didn't really get to notice when I was spinning the Cotswold, which is also a Longwool, or I don't know what Navajo Churro is. I think it's got multiple coats. But because the Cotswold was in a vat and it was prepared already by someone else, I didn't really know which end was the tip, like this tip end or the cut end, the butt of it. So I found that if I looked at it, because I was very careful about, I put all of the butt ends onto the hackle when I was pulling it off. So I found if I drafted with this end towards the orifice, the tip end, and smoothed it down, it felt much better than if I did it from the cut end and smoothed it down when I was spinning it. And that was a noticeable difference in the spinning, which is weird because like if I do it stroke it this way, it feels much smoother to me than if I stroke it that way. But spinning it this way seemed to be better. And I wonder if that's got something to do with like the scales. So I've been reading about wool. My wool library's expanded. I was just reading Clara Park's The Knitter's Book of Yarn, which is available through one of the libraries that I'm part of. I'd recommend it. I think it's interesting, especially the bit about fibre and fibre structure. The bits that she includes about ply and colour, I feel are a little bit less relevant to me because I have picked up some of that knowledge through spinning already. But the fibre part was pretty interesting. And so she was talking about how Longwools have larger scales on them, and that's partly what makes them shinier, because if you've got like a fine wool like a merino or a rambouillet or a cormo, they've got like shorter crimp and like their scales are much smaller, and that's partly what makes them feel softer, because they're small enough that you can't notice them. Whereas with long wool, the bigger scales means like there's more area for the light to bounce off. It's less interrupted by the scales, but because they're bigger you can feel them more, which is why they're normally coarser. So yeah, I was just wondering if that meant the way I was drafting was with the direction the scales were going or opposite. And I don't know. Interesting. I'm just going to have to look out for it when I eventually spin the Leicester Longwool locks that I've got, because now I know that I can prep them. I'm definitely going to spin them, which is exciting. So yeah, that's my 10th breed from Shave 'em to Save 'em. I've got 5 to go. I have some Shropshire fibre that I'm planning on spinning, and then I've got Hog Island fleece that's washed, but it's not combed or carded or whatever yet. I have to sit down and look at it and think about it a bit. And then I've got the rest of the Leicester Longwool locks, so that's Hog Island, Shropshire, Leicester Longwool. Oh, and then I've got some Horn Dorset, so I only need one more and then I'll have the 15. And like, I'm really glad I made the decision to participate in it, in the Shave 'em to Save 'em, not just for the rare breed aspect, but also because the different types of wool that it has encouraged me to seek out. And I think it's made me a better spinner, because I've gotten my hands on so many different types of things that your hands basically have to spin them differently, or otherwise it's just like fighting them. And so doing that, it kind of I feel like I'm starting to get more of an idea on good ways to spin things, prep that I enjoy more depending on the fibre, like idea of the amount of twist to put in for a nice yarn, including singles twist and ply twist. And it's just like spinning all sorts of different things has given me a lot of different experiences, and I guess that's what learning is. So I'm really, really happy about that. And while I found some fibres that I haven't enjoyed spinning, there's some that I found that I really enjoyed and I want to get my hands on more of. So that's like, I really enjoyed spinning this Lincoln, and once I figure out what I'm going to do with it, I might buy some more. I loved spinning the Shetland, and I desperately want to get my hands on more of that. So I've got plans for a proper Shetland hat at some point, but that's way down the future. And then I think I also really enjoyed spinning the Clun Forest and the Tunis. So yeah, and they all end up making such different types of yarn too, so I get really excited about it and about the possibilities. I think I'm probably going to spin something colourful next though, as much as I've been enjoying doing all of these natural colours, because I'm going to pick it up for you. But like, look at this rainbow, man. Well, that doesn't really involve in there, but like, that's all natural colours. These are not dyed. And I think they're just so, it's just, and like, this is not dyed either. It's like vanilla, although it does have a bit of the clay still in it and a bit of VM in it, so I'm hoping some more of that will come out when I wash it. But it's just awesome. Nature is awesome, man. yeah, that's it for spinning. And then I did a bit of weaving. I made a table runner for a friend and then unfortunately didn't take a picture of it and sent it off, and so I don't have anything to share with you. But I also have like some dream weaver. So Liz Gibson's Weave Along is doing mini rugs, and I kind of thought that I could use some of this hand spun and try making, I mean, it's a low commitment to do the mini rugs. I think it's only like a 1 yard warp anyway. So that was an option, and I can use my 20-inch knitter's loom for that, which I do have a heddle for. So that was one thing, and I think the warping information is available as of yesterday or today. So I might get started on that. I also want to weave something just beautiful and impractical that is just woven because it's gorgeous and it uses beautiful fibers, despite the fact that what I've got in mind it's not my colors. It's from some stash yarn that I had, so it's not really my colors, and it just I want to weave it because, and I think the world needs some more beautiful things with all of the ugliness that's going on, particularly here in the US. So maybe just weaving something beautiful and impractical is like a coping mechanism. But we'll see. I'm just not quite sure if my knitters, I want to weave it as like a wrap, but I'm not sure if my knitter's loom is wide enough. So, because even though it says it's 20 inches, which is like that long roughly, you don't get the full weaving width on those looms so you get some shrinkage from after washing it depending on the fiber, and then you've got, because it's under tension, once it's not under tension then it shrinks more. So I think roughly from a 20-inch loom, if you're just doing a single like plain weave, then you get probably about 16.5 inches of weaving width out of it. So I'm just not sure if that's like wide enough for a wrap, or if I should just bite the bullet and buy a heddle for my new to me loom that is currently sitting in the cupboard without a heddle. We'll see. It's 32 inches, so that would definitely be wide enough. Yeah, we'll see. I have lots of plans or thoughts and sometimes no motivation to actually go through with it. So I've also been doing some sewing. I made another version of the McCalls M6044 men's shirt, and I made this one as the short sleeve version, and I made it out of a 100% cotton sky blue Oxford weave, which I need to look up what that actually means, but it's a specific type of weave structure. So, and that fabric was so much easier to work with than the navy blue pin stripe men's shirt that I did that just like frayed and stretched and was a nightmare. Looked pretty good in the end, but not so good. So that was good. I also got different type of interfacing to work with on it. So I actually used something called Shirt Tailor for the collar stand and the collar. And I swear it made such a difference. Just to the finished look of it, I think it's like a little bit more thicker or stiffer maybe than the interface that I used for the button band, which is a bit more malleable. And then I also found out that my machine can in fact do buttonholes, which I was very pleased about, because I don't mind doing some by hand, but like it gets a bit much after a while. But it obviously just did not like that other crepey polyester cotton fabric that I was using last time. So I'll insert pictures of it. And then I also made this maxi skirt that I'm currently wearing, not that you can see. And I kind of riffed it off the Cleo skirt pattern, which is by Ray Hoekstra, I believe, and it's available on Creative Bug if you have a subscription to that. In the sense that I took the waistband pattern from that and then just kind of fudged the rest of it for the length and the width based on a like a dirndl skirt. So the width of, I used 2 panels. I didn't end up doing pockets because it's in chiffon and I thought it would just be too heavy. Plus I feel like I need to make the waistband tighter at the back so it wouldn't fall down if I made it again and put pockets in it. Yeah, and then I had some mystery mint fabric, which I have no idea what it is. I'm guessing it's polyester of some sort. It's like kind of matte on one side and it has a similar like very slight satin finish on the other. So maybe if I do some Googling I can figure it out. But it was mystery fabric from a mystery box. And then I used that to line the chiffon so I wasn't showing the world my knickers. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I made a boo-boo or two. One was I tried to do French seams on the chiffon and one side I did it on the correct side and the other side is, the wrong side is now on the right side, and like, oops. Luckily it's chiffon so it's pretty flowy, and I'm hoping that if I just kind of nudge the gathering from the elastic waistband towards the side seam a bit, it'll give enough fullness that no one will notice but me. And this poly chiffon is so slippery, it did not want to hem. So that's another lesson learned. But considering chiffon tends to be like an advanced kind of fabric to work with, I'm pretty happy with it. And I bought this chiffon in like 2016, maybe earlier than that. So it's been sitting in my stash for so long and now it's become something, which is so exciting. Unfortunately, I have like half of it left, so I've got to figure out what to do with it. And because it's got a panel print, it's kind of awkward to use for things, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. And make something else. And then the last sewing thing, which I'll also put a picture of, is the Barrett bralette. So this is a free bralette pattern by Madeline Intimates out of Philadelphia, and you can download it from her website, I'm pretty sure, which I'll link in the show notes. And the pattern itself has a fairly reasonable video picture tutorials that go along with it. However, I'm still using my Creative Bug subscription, and she does a video on how to do it there, and so I use that and it's comfortable. I ended up modifying the pattern, so I used like the 3XL for the cup size and a smaller size, maybe like the XL for the band size, to accommodate like the bigger, like the difference between full bust and under bust. And I'm pretty happy with the fit. I think next time I might like to use a narrower elastic around the band, because I think that the elastic I used was 1 7/8 inch, and just because of the distance between the bottom of the bra and my natural waist is like quite short, and if I bend there it just like rolls. So I think I'd like to make that a bit shorter, and I would probably make the straps shorter than she recommended, because at the moment like I keep having to tighten them just because, and I feel like that just wastes elastic. I may as well just make them shorter and not worry about it. So that's that. And then there's something that I want to do to the cutout at the front, but I'm not sure what at the moment because it kind of gapes, and I've got a feeling it's because I need a bigger cup size again, but this works fine. So I don't know. I want to make some more in other colors because black and white stripes is good for most things, but it's just very graphic, and I want some, like, I don't know, something that's like a little bit more delicate. It's all the sewing I've been doing. It's been keeping me busy. I had a little adventure the other week with my husband. We went on a drive and went to the farm that we visited when blueberries were in season because they had pick your own tomatoes, and like a partner farm in the area also had new season galas, which I like, and peaches available. So we ended up picking something like ridiculous, like 22 pounds of tomatoes, and so we made that into green tomato relish and just canned tomato sauce, and then we canned some of the peaches because you could only buy a peck of peaches, which is not a thing in Australia. I don't even know how much a peck weighs. I think it's a volume measurement, not actually a weight measurement, so seems dumb to me. Anyway, but that was a lot of peaches, so I canned some peaches and then made a peach pie, which was delicious and is all gone. So we put some walnuts in the crumble topping on it, and I think almonds would have been more delicious than walnuts. Yeah, so busy time in the kitchen. I don't know if you can see it. Oh yeah, you can see it. I burned my elbow on the canning pot because I'm awesome like that. Yeah, but that's about it. Maybe I'll catch you soon. I'm going to try and do this in like 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. So